Welcome to Pure Riches. We are diving back into the fundamental steps of financial mastery. Today's deep dive begins now. Okay, let's unpack this. For everyone joining us, we are about to launch into a truly fascinating deep dive. It's built around a stack of sources that, honestly, they fundamentally challenge the very definition of financial mastery.
They really do.
Forget the complexity of the stock market for a second, or the latest tax code. Our immediate overriding theme today is that financial success has less to do with intelligence, formulas and advanced math,
Right.
and nearly everything to do with behavior and deeply ingrained beliefs. In short, it's a psychological game.
That is the core thesis. Absolutely. That's what we've derived from our sources. We're
Yeah.
peeling back the layers today to explore the mental architecture of wealth creation. We're drawing on foundational texts on achievement, but also modern behavioral finance research.
So we have a mix of old and new.
Exactly. We've got excerpts on these crucial mindset differences between, let's call it the world class and the middle class. And we're anchoring that with classics like Think and Grow Rich and more contemporary analysis, something like The Psychology of Money.
I see. So if you're preparing for a major financial shift, what you're saying is the traditional approach, the technical stuff, the formulas, that only gets you halfway there.
At best. It really does.
Our mission today is to move past the spreadsheet and, into the subconscious. The central question we are unpacking for you is this. What specific beliefs and thought patterns truly distinguish those who accumulate extraordinary wealth from those who, despite being maybe equally intelligent or hardworking, remain financially constrained? We're here to provide a shortcut, not to the next investment fad, but to a fundamental understanding of how financial results are actually generated, right? From the inside out.
That's right. The sources make a compelling and, I think, a very direct argument right out of the gate. Getting rich begins fundamentally with how you think and what you believe about money. The world class, or the financially secure, they operate with this recognition of a crucial cause and effect relationship that let's say the constrained mentality often misses.
And let's define that relationship clearly for the listener. What is that crucial chain of causation?
It's a cognitive chain. Beliefs influence your behavior, and that behavior dictates your financial results. It's that simple and that profound.
So if you hold a belief, say, that money is inherently hard to get.
Right, or that wealth is, reserved for a select few, your resulting behavior will just naturally reflect caution, scarcity, a reluctance to take calculated risks.
It has to.
Conversely, the successful understand that their internal mental state, their beliefs, is the first domino. It sets up the entire subsequent sequence of action and outcome. It necessitates a conscious effort to build a financial architecture within your mind before any external wealth can really be sustained.
So we're talking about auditing our minds before we audit our budgets.
That's a great way to put it.
It's about recognizing that if you want a different result, the change has to start at the causal level, the thought. To set the stage for this psychological audit, there's a brilliant concept from the late Wayne Dyer that it encapsulates this whole mission.
I think I know the one you mean.
He said, successful people make money. It's not that people who make money become successful, but that successful people attract money.
That quote is the perfect summary. It just is. Because it inverts the perceived hierarchy, doesn't it? It's not, I'll acquire money and then I'll be a successful person.
No.
It states that success, which is an internal state defined by mindset, habits, beliefs, that is the prerequisite that attracts the financial outcome. We're defining success not by the size of the bank account, but by the quality of the thinking and the disciplined behavior that comes first.
This distinction it's just paramount as we dive into our next section and explore this enormous gap in mindset between what the sources call the linear and the nonlinear thinker.
A huge gap.
Okay, so let's look at the actual mechanics of this mindset difference. The sources highlight a fundamental schism, really, in how people view their earning potential. We'll start with what the texts identify as the linear trap. This is the operational model for that scarcity mentality we mentioned.
Right. When we talk about the linear trap, we're describing the mentality of the average person who believes earning money is. It's directly tied to hard work, time, and physical effort.
The traditional formula.
The traditional arithmetic formula. X hours worked times Y hourly rate equals Z income. And look, while this equation holds true for wages and many salaries, it creates this enormous, unchangeable constraint on wealth accumulation.
Because it treats money as something you trade for your time.
Exactly. You trade for it using a resource that is inherently finite, your limited time on Earth.
That model guarantees a ceiling. Full stop. You only have so many hours in the day, so much physical energy. It's the definition of trading dollars for hours.
It is.
And the sources note that this perspective is overwhelmingly dominated by anxiety and survival instincts.
Yes. If you view your income as a direct trade for constant physical effort, you live in this perpetual fear of financial instability. If I stop working, the money stops flowing.
And that background anxiety, that hum of fear, it then actively hinders your ability to dedicate any mental energy toward high-impact, high-leverage solutions. It locks your mind into a reactive survival loop.
Which prevents proactive wealth creation. And critically, this constrained belief system is often inherited. It's reinforced by your environment. Individuals raised in financially constrained environments often adopt these same limiting philosophies about money. They internalize that money doesn't grow on trees, or that it's something to be feared or hoarded or distrusted because it's seen as finite and hard to keep.
So that foundational belief system, it just restricts their financial potential from the very start. They might cap their ambition at a modest survival level, completely unaware of the immense, nonlinear possibilities for wealth creation that don't depend on trading time.
Totally unaware.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, if you are constantly looking down at your feet, worrying about the next paycheck, you can't look up to see the horizon of opportunity. But this leads me to my first critical question for the source material.
Okay.
If the average worker must operate within that linear system, typical job, how do you jump the mental gap to this non-linear world-class approach?
Yeah.
Is this philosophy only for people who start their own businesses?
That is the crucial pivot. And the answer is no, it's not only for entrepreneurs. Wealthy individuals fundamentally reject the linear premise that time equals money. They just don't see it that way.
So they're not looking at it as a trade for time.
No, they look at it as a reward for solving a profitable problem or for generating an innovative idea, often an idea that can be scaled independently of their physical time. They adopt a nonlinear approach, generating income through leverage, through ideas, and through solutions.
So they understand that the value of their contribution isn't measured in hours.
It's measured in the scope and the scale of the solution they provide to the market.
The moment you make that shift from how much time can I sell to what innovative solution can I generate or what system can I build, the earning potential becomes limitless.
That's where the concept of abundance kicks in. The nonlinear mindset allows them to recognize limitless earning potential. And that contrasts so sharply with the constrained view of money as a fixed pie.
Right.
They shift their perception from money being a scarce physical commodity to an abundant, infinite resource that's generated through limitless intellectual capacity. Through ideas.
Creative, innovative ideas are the real scarce resources that lead to massive wealth, not physical labor.
That is leverage in its purest cognitive form. You're leveraging thought, not time.
And this difference dramatically impacts where they focus their most valuable resource, their mental energy. While the constrained mentality is consumed by trivial distractions or fear, the world class directs their focus toward creation.
Yeah, while the masses are, frequently expending mental energy worrying about bills or neighborhood gossip, the financially successful direct their focus almost exclusively toward opportunities for wealth creation.
They channel their attention into revenue-producing ideas and solutions.
That's it. They understand that significant fortunes can arise rapidly, not through these tiny, incremental, linear raises, but through the sudden, widespread application of the right idea at the right time. The sustained, high-level focus on opportunities rather than distractions is a crucial form of mental leverage.
So, if mental energy is the input, creative thinking must be the highest asset. The rich aren't necessarily smarter than the rest of us. They're just more strategic in prioritizing creative problem-solving over that paralyzing worry.
That's absolutely right. The scarcity mindset is often paralyzed by potential financial crises. They just worry. The wealthy, conversely, focus intensely on creative problem solving, on finding profitable solutions. When a problem arises or they need capital, they don't stop to wonder if it's possible.
They just start generating ideas.
They simply begin generating new ideas that solve problems for others, which is the engine of wealth. They're focused on profitable solutions, and that focus is its own form of disciplined action.
It reminds me of that beautiful analogy from one of the sources. Money flows to great ideas like water. The secret is learning how to turn on the faucet.
I love that one.
It immediately demystifies the whole process. Wealth isn't a slow trickle gained through attrition or long, painful hours. It's potentially a flood that's activated by innovation and strategic thinking that opens the valve.
And we really have to define this superior cognitive function used to activate that flood. The sources, particularly the foundational philosophy of achievement, define creative critical thinking as the highest form of thought available to humanity. They claim it is single-handedly responsible for all progress.
All progress, all civilization, all major technological leaps. That's a big claim.
It's a huge claim.
But let's clarify what that means for the learner who might feel they aren't inherently creative. What is creative critical thinking in practical, actionable terms beyond just having a light bulb moment?
It's the capacity to synthesize diverse information, to challenge deeply held assumptions, and to develop innovative solutions that capitalize on opportunities others just overlook. It's the ability to connect seemingly disparate pieces of information market needs, tech capabilities, human behavior into a new, valuable product or service.
So this type of thinking leads directly to higher value skills, allows for true leverage, and it's essential not just for building wealth, but for keeping it.
For maintenance, absolutely. It means you are constantly thinking outside the known box of your current situation. You're actively designing your financial future rather than just passively waiting for incremental increases.
Okay, so we've established that the mental architecture, the ideas and beliefs, is the starting gun for wealth creation. But the sources are equally emphatic that the greatest ideas, the highest intelligence, are useless without the right behavior. This leads us naturally into the third major section. The superiority of behavior over raw intellectual horsepower. We're going to look at two real-world lives that prove financial success is purely a soft skill, driven by discipline and humility.
This contrast, documented so compellingly in The Psychology of Money, is truly profound. It really is, because it just flies in the face of what most people assume about financial success. It illustrates that wealth is primarily about emotional stability, consistency, and patience, not just IQ or academic training.
Let's begin with the genius. We're talking about a tech executive, highly educated, who is genuinely brilliant. In his 20s, he was wildly successful, having designed and patented a key component in early Wi-Fi routers.
He had it all. He had every external advantage, a brilliant mind, massive initial financial success, millions in capital. However, his success was not matched by emotional maturity or behavioral control.
And his relationship with money was described as what?
Pathologically insecure, destructive, and focused entirely on seeking external validation through ostentatious, flashy displays. His behavior was entirely chaotic and self-sabotaging.
Give us some specifics, the details that really paint this picture of financial self-destruction.
He was famous for his sheer bravado. He carried these cash stacks inches thick, bragged openly and loudly, often while intoxicated, about his earnings and his genius. But the most spectacular examples, they involved demonstrating his wealth in bizarre and wasteful ways.
Okay.
On one occasion, while entertaining colleagues, he purchased several $1,000s worth of gold coins, pure, solid gold, and proceeded to throw them into the Pacific Ocean.
You're kidding.
Skipping them like flat stones across the water purely for the spectator sport of wasting money.
Skipping $1,000 gold coins, that's an almost tragic demonstration of how a destructive ego can just translate intellectual brilliance into behavioral failure. He valued the immediate spectacle over the long-term utility of the asset.
Exactly. His ego required immediate destructive validation. There's another telling incident involving him shattering a valuable, say, $500 lamp at a hotel.
Okay.
Instead of handling it maturely, he reacted with explosive insecurity. He pulled out a massive wad of cash, $5,000, and violently threw it at the manager, shouting, "Take this $5,000, never insult me like that again."
Wow. So his goal wasn't to resolve the cost of the lamp. It was to exert dominance and prove his superiority through just irrational spending.
That was it. And his story, tragically, ends just as predictably as it began. He burned through his millions, faced crippling bankruptcy, and was financially ruined. He had the highest intellectual capacity in his field, but zero behavioral control over his ego.
Okay, now let's contrast that chaotic genius with the quiet consistency of Ronald Read.
A completely different story. Read was an American philanthropist who lived an astonishingly humble life. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant.
Humble beginnings.
The first in his family to graduate high school. He lived in a modest two-bedroom house worth only about $12,000 for the last half of his life. His entire existence was low-key, humble, and to an outside observer, completely unremarkable.
Yet, when Ronald Read died in 2014, his obituary became international news. Precisely because of that shocking contrast. the humble janitor who everyone assumed was living hand to mouth.
Died with a net worth exceeding $8 million.
$8 million. And his fortune wasn't derived from a high-tech patent or a massive inheritance.
Not at all. He simply saved what little he could, invested those savings diligently and consistently in blue-chip stocks that he understood, and waited for decades. As the powerful engine of compounding turned those modest regular savings into a massive fortune.
And he became a major posthumous philanthropist.
Yes, leaving millions to his local library and hospital institutions he valued.
The core lesson here is so critical. Financial success is not a hard science that rewards the highly intelligent. It is a soft skill driven entirely by how you behave, not how smart you are.
It is.
Ordinary people with superior behavioral skills, patience, consistency, the ability to delay gratification, humility can massively outperform highly educated, highly trained financial professionals if the latter lack basic emotional control.
The difference between the bankrupt executive and the millionaire janitor was not education or opportunity, but purely the control of ego and the use of patience.
And this brings us back to the role of ego, which is clearly the primary self-sabotage mechanism. The texts provide a definition of saving money that just cuts right to the heart of the matter.
I love this definition. Saving money is defined as the gap between your ego and your income.
That is incredibly concise and something we have to dwell on. The ego is the force that says, I deserve that now, or I must project this image. If my income is X, the ego demands I maintain a lifestyle where I spend X minus a tiny fraction, or maybe even more than X.
Which means there is no gap left for security, investment, or growth. The ego is that constant modern pressure pushing to close that gap.
And the problem is that modern society actively incentivizes closing that gap. We live in a comparison culture, fueled by social media, where lifestyle inflation is rampant and instant gratification is the norm.
The ego demands immediate fun, immediate validation, immediate symbols of success. But wealth, true enduring wealth, is fundamentally what you don't see.
We need to explain that in detail. Why is wealth invisible?
Because wealth is created by the constant disciplined suppression of what you could buy today. That immediate fun, that flashy car, that designer clothing, in order to have more options, more security, and more power in the future.
Right. The money I save and invest doesn't generate a social media post.
Exactly. If I have $1 million invested in a diversified portfolio, you don't see it. If I spend that $1 million on a massive house, a brand new Ferrari, or jewelry, then everyone sees it, but I've just traded real generative wealth for temporary status.
So no matter how much you earn, you will never build enduring wealth unless you can put a lid on the immediate demands of your ego.
You can't. And this speaks directly to the observation that people with enduring financial success tend to have a strong propensity to, well, to not care what others think of them. They're liberated from the need for external validation, which is incredibly powerful.
It is. If you desire less, you save more by spending less. If you care less about external opinions, you feel less pressure to display expensive status symbols to impress a neighbor or a friend.
It's a powerful self-reinforcing cycle. Inner security supplants external validation. This is a critical behavioral key, the humility and patience to ignore the noise and focus on long-term compounding. Just like Ronald Read.
Now, while we're emphasizing reason and control, we have to address the role of pure emotion in decision-making. One piece of ultimate advice from the text regarding money management is to put your emotions on the shelf and let reason guide your financial strategies.
Right. Financial decisions must be pragmatic, logical, and systematic. Successful individuals reject the scarcity mindset of financial hoarding and fear that often plagues the constrained mentality.
So fear of loss or, obsessing over saving every single penny, that can sometimes lead to stagnation. It prevents the calculated risks necessary for true growth.
It does. Instead, the wealthy operate from a mindset rooted in abundance, understanding that money is a tool to solve problems and create value, not a source of constant paralyzing anxiety.
However, let's go back to the critical caveat we raised earlier, addressing the external reality. We spent a lot of time discussing internal mastery and the power of belief, but when we look at behavioral economists like Dan Ariely, the picture becomes more nuanced.
It's an absolutely essential point to ensure we're reporting impartially on the source's full scope. While internal beliefs are crucial, the sources, citing behavioral economics research, confirmed that socioeconomic factors also play a massive role in shaping financial decisions and values.
So motivations are often heavily influenced by real external circumstances.
Like systemic debt, job insecurity, or lack of access to educational capital, rather than just internal beliefs.
So we have to recognize that if a person is living in perpetual, acute crisis mode, struggling to keep the lights on, it is exponentially harder for their brain to engage in the kind of high-level, creative, critical thinking that the wealthy use.
The constant stress hijacks their cognitive bandwidth. It locks them into scarcity behavior out of necessity, not necessarily due to a lack of ambition.
Scarcity is a real-world constraint that limits cognitive resources.
Yeah, it is. And while the philosophy of achievement maintains that internal mastery helps anyone maximize their potential within their circumstances, we have to acknowledge that for many, the environment places severe, tangible limitations on the choices available. This isn't about moral failure. It's about limited psychological resources due to persistent stress.
So we have to strive for internal mastery while remaining aware that external realities create systemic friction.
That's the balance.
That provides the necessary context. Internal mastery is the engine, but external reality provides the road conditions. But regardless of the road conditions, the successful individual must engage the engine with purpose. And this is where the sources transition from diagnosis to prescription, the actual mechanism of internal mastery.
Yes.
We are now diving deep into the methodology derived from Andrew Carnegie's philosophy, the systematic approach to transmute desire into financial reality.
This section provides the foundation and the framework for conscious achievement. The entire philosophy begins with a powerful statement. All achievement begins with desire.
Not a mere wish or a hope.
No, a definite, palpable, burning desire. The philosophy states emphatically that weak desires bring weak results, just as a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. If your desire isn't intense, the effort required to overcome obstacles will simply not materialize.
So if you are struggling with the persistence needed to achieve wealth, the source material suggests the remedy isn't some complex motivational trick, but simply building a stronger, more intense fire under your desires.
Exactly. And that desire must be channeled into a specific, measurable cognitive state, which the philosophy calls money consciousness.
Can you unpack that a bit? Money consciousness sounds a little dated. What does that mean in practical terms?
It means that to accumulate great riches, one must develop the state where the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can vividly see oneself already in possession of it.
In modern terms, we might call this intense high-level visualization or deliberate cognitive saturation. You're actively priming the neural filter in your brain, your reticular activating system, to prioritize and recognize every piece of information related to achieving that goal.
You're deliberately planting the seed of success in your subconscious garden, ensuring every decision you make, consciously or unconsciously, moves you toward that aim.
That makes sense.
And this consciousness must be created deliberately. The text stresses that all earned riches begin in the form of thought, and the amount you can achieve is only limited by the capacity of the person in whose mind the thought is first put into motion. The power of the idea is the necessary fuel.
Right. All earned riches have their beginning in an idea. The secret to riches, therefore, lies in transforming these strong thoughts and desires into systematic, actionable steps. And that's where we get this methodology that's been scrutinized and validated for generations.
This methodology is the true centerpiece, the 6 definite, practical steps to transmute desire into its financial equivalent. It doesn't require hard labor or a high level of education, but it demands relentless discipline, application, and persistence.
So let's break down the psychological necessity of each step. As the sources say, they are non-negotiable for success. We need to walk through this essential blueprint now, step by step, and explain why the specificity in each instruction is so crucial.
Okay, the first step requires you to fix in your mind the precise exact amount of money you desire.
So not, I want plenty of money or I want enough money to retire.
No, that's not sufficient. You must name a definite figure, down to the penny if necessary. The psychological rationale here is critical. Vagueness allows the mind to accept mediocrity or just drift aimlessly. Definiteness forces clarity and creates a concrete, high-resolution target for your subconscious mind to aim at.
It turns a philosophical wish into a measurable, executable goal.
That's it. Now, the second step introduces the law of exchange, which links directly to that nonlinear mindset we talked about. Determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire.
There's no such thing as something for nothing.
The sources are absolutely clear on that. Wealth is always an exchange of equivalent value, whether that's in the form of dedicated service, a superior product, an innovative system, or intellectual capital. This step anchors your desire in real-world effort and prevents it from becoming a mere fantasy. It forces you to define your value proposition.
Okay, what's next?
The third step introduces accountability and urgency. Establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire.
Right. Without a timeline, the goal just remains perpetually in the future. It's subject to infinite postponement.
Exactly. The time limit is crucial because it gives the plan urgency and sets a marker for clear accountability. It prevents the kind of procrastination that just kills potential wealth.
Makes sense. So, step 4.
The fourth step is the most crucial bridge between abstract thought and concrete action. Create a definite master plan for carrying out your desire, and then, and this is key, begin putting that plan into action at once, whether you feel 100% ready or not.
So action, regardless of perfection, is the key. The world class understands that 80% execution of a good plan beats 100% preparation for a perfect plan that never launches.
That's the idea. This step tackles the fear of failure and the tyranny of perfectionism head-on by forcing immediate momentum.
Okay, so we're at step 5. This must be where it all comes together.
It is. The fifth step synthesizes all the previous cognitive effort. Write out a clear, concise statement summarizing the exact amount of money you intend to acquire, the definite time limit you've set, what you intend to give in return, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it.
So this step is about forcing absolute clarity and documentation. By writing it down, you formalize the goal, making it an external contract with yourself.
You move it from an abstract thought to a physical document you must interact with.
And finally, the 6th step brings us back to that psychological mechanism that ensures implementation.
Auto-suggestion and visualization. You must read the written statement aloud twice daily, preferably at night just before sleeping, and again first thing in the morning in a quiet place, while fully seeing and feeling yourself already in possession of the money. The emotional engagement is absolutely key here.
So this repetition and visualization, they aren't passive wishes. They are the actual mechanism of implementation for the subconscious mind.
That's what the philosophy states. The act of reading the statement aloud, combined with sensory input seeing and feeling the possession in a spirit of absolute faith, communicates the desire directly to your subconscious mind. This is what is meant by autosuggestion.
You're voluntarily creating thought habits favorable to wealth creation. You're intentionally overriding any latent failure consciousness or scarcity programming with the consciousness of success.
You're essentially performing self-hypnosis toward a predefined goal. You are programming your brain to look for the opportunities, the connections, and the knowledge required to fulfill those 6 steps, essentially forcing the environment to align with your inner goal.
And the instructions call for absolute persistence.
Unwavering persistence. The philosophy recognizes that failure is inevitable on the path to great wealth. If one tries and fails, the rule is simple and unwavering. Make another effort and still another until success is achieved. There is no acceptable level of quitting when the desire is strong enough.
The philosophy suggests there's a hidden, often brutal process at work here, a testing mechanism.
It does. It examines men and women through all sorts of discouraging experiences and temporary setbacks. It implies that true achievement requires weathering these tests, and the persistence required is the payment for success.
So those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep trying are the ones who arrive at great fortunes.
They are. They're rewarded with their material compensation and something far more important, the knowledge that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage.
So failure is reframed. It's not a stopping point, but essential feedback required for adjustment, a necessary test of the depth of your original desire.
That's the philosophy. But the system also requires alertness for sudden breakthroughs, which it attributes to a high-level intuition, something beyond mere logical deduction.
The hunch.
Yes, you must be constantly on the alert for plans that may suddenly flash into your mind as an inspiration, or hunch. The philosophy refers to this as the creative imagination or the 6th sense.
And what does it say about that?
The text considers this high-level intuition a direct message, a cognitive telegram from infinite intelligence, a high-level source of intuition or subconscious pattern recognition accessed through intense focus and desire. This insight must be acted upon immediately. Delaying action on these inspired hunches is considered fatal to your success.
This concept of the creative imagination acting as an external flash of genius is fascinating. It suggests that once you have meticulously followed the 6 steps and saturated your mind with desire, the key solution might not come from brute force calculation.
But from a sudden, elegant, intuitive insight that synthesizes all your previous effort. We see that principle in countless historical examples. The vast empire of Coca-Cola, for example, grew from a single idea, a formula mixed with persistent desire and imagination.
That one simple concept, acted upon with a definite plan and unwavering persistence, became a worldwide enterprise that fundamentally changed consumer habits and generated incomprehensible wealth.
It illustrates that the process of building a fortune involves the systematic application of all these psychological factors, the desire, the plan, the autosuggestion, the persistence, to align your inner world with the external action required to transform thought into reality.
So as we transition into our final thoughts, let's revisit why the world class engages in this process in the first place, linking back to their superior behavior. It's about merging passion and profit.
Into a sustainable, fulfilling lifestyle.
It's about working for fulfillment, not just money. Wealthy individuals transform their core passions, whether that's real estate, art collecting, complex financial modeling, technology, into profitable ventures. Their work and hobbies often overlap.
Which means they are earning money while deeply enjoying what they do. This eliminates the necessity of that linear trade of time for money, replacing it with the nonlinear leverage of a compelling idea. They focus their creative critical thinking on ideas that can generate wealth, driven by passion and a deep desire to live entirely on their own terms.
And that internal motivation is far more powerful and sustainable than merely chasing a paycheck.
Much more.
To achieve this, the sources remind us of the constant need to overcome these psychological traps and limiting beliefs inherited from the scarcity mindset.
The primary obstacle is belief. It just is. Many people lack empowering beliefs. They often criticize the wealthy, viewing them as inherently immoral or lucky, which usually stems from a deep-seated lack of faith in their own ability to achieve similar success ethically.
And that constrained mentality, rooted in resentment, it ensures financial struggle by actively repelling or failing to recognize opportunity.
And there's a powerful self-defeating psychological defense mechanism at play here, too. The text notes that many people blame money itself for their challenges, claiming it's the root of all evil or the source of stress, as a way to avoid the responsibility of achieving financial success.
So by maintaining that belief, they feel they are maintaining their moral integrity, but they are simultaneously guaranteeing a lifetime of financial struggle and anxiety.
To immediately counteract this detrimental programming, the philosophy provides a simple yet profoundly effective action step.
Good gist.
Affirm that making money is simple, and then observe the emotional impact of that affirmation. Start telling yourself daily that money is your friend and a positive, abundant force that flows easily into your life. This conscious shift in mindset encourages your mind to stop resisting and start seeking ways to acquire more money.
For those looking to continue this exploration into financial psychology and behavioral finance, our deep dive reveals some excellent resource recommendations that cover both the strategic and the emotional sides of money.
Yeah, to understand the strategic, sober realities of market navigation and avoiding common traps, we recommend Jim Cramer's Real Money: Sane Investing in an Insane World. It focuses on pragmatic analysis applied to today's markets.
And for long-term, disciplined investment strategy,
Nick Murray's Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth. It provides crucial insights into compounding and consistent strategy, the Ronald Read approach, formalized.
And finally, to delve deeper into the emotional and behavioral disorders around money that we discussed, the root causes of that tech executive's self-destruction.
Check out Mind Over Money: Overcoming the Money Disorders That Threaten Our Financial Health by Brad Klontz and Ted Klontz.
These texts, both classic and modern, consistently reinforce the same conclusion. Financial success is primarily about mastering yourself. The foundation is self-knowledge and behavioral control.
It requires boldness and caution to make a great fortune, and 10 times as much skill, specifically behavioral skill, to keep it compounding. We've covered the mindset gap, the critical role of behavior and ego, and provided the systematic 6 definite steps to turn an abstract desire into a tangible reality. The action starts in your mind.
Now we leave you with a final provocation for the learner, drawn directly from our analysis of how limiting belief systems are formed and maintained. Take a moment to truly reflect on your past financial beliefs and your emotional programming. The critical question you must sincerely ask yourself is this: were you taught to view rich people as liberators, innovators, and creators of value? or as oppressors, exploiters, and the source of society's problems?
The answer to that question reveals the core belief system that you must analyze, challenge, and consciously enhance to achieve financial prosperity. Because your current beliefs dictate your current results, and only by changing the cause can you change the effect.
This concludes our analysis for today. Apply these truths to your mind, and we will be back with a new episode of Pure Riches soon.